Bonjour, today I'll be talking about adjustments, mainly armhole adjustments. You could have a tight or gaping armhole. Let's start with the tight one first. Here are some possible reasons why you could have a tight armhole: your arm side being too short, your armhole curves being too shallow, or not enough ease on your horizontal measurement. Likely to happen if you use your upper bust measurement, you would need more ease. As you can see, I don't have a true tight armhole to show you, but in the back, it is riding too close to my armpit, and that made me worry about what it would feel with my sleeves on, so I felt like it would be best to make some adjustments. Initially, I thought that my issue was that my armhole curves were too shallow, and so that's what I tried to fix. And I really thought that was the reason, because I did not do what I normally do to try and get a more curved armhole. I normally start my curves from a squared in point, so I don't start my curves from the point that I mark typically. I square in and then I start my curve from the point I square in from. So for the front, that would be 3/8 of an inch. And for the back, that would be 1/4 of an inch. And at the back neck, I would do 1/8 of an inch. And for the front neck, I would do 1/4 of an inch. I do that because in the past, I've had issues with my curves not being deep enough, being too shallow, and just not looking the way I wanted them to look. So I really thought that was the issue for me. And usually, when you have issue with your armhole, you're going to end up having issues with your sleeves. Things are not going to look the way they should look. And in cases where I have made my armholes too deep in the past, I've had issues with motility, where my sleeves just felt too uncomfortable and not being able to move the way I wanted it to move. So a lot of things that I do it to make sure I have a pattern that is comfortable yet tailored to me. Eventually, I concluded that my issue may not have been the armhole curves being shallow. It may have been that I needed to lower my arm side a bit. Initially, when I measured my arm side, I had 8.5 inches. And then I measured myself again. I had 8 inches. And I thought that sounded better. And I went with that instead of going in between. Next time, that's really good advice, to just stay in between. And just, I should have kept it at 8.25 of an inch. That would have been a better thing for me to do. At this point, I did not lower my arm side. I just went in deeper with my curves. I think my back armhole, if I did make the curves deeper, if I did make that curve deeper, it would have worked. Here, I am trying to make sure my side seams match, and then I make sure I like the curve for my neckline, and I was satisfied. It looks better than it was before. And for the shoulder tip, I still like to have that straight line going for the first inches on each side. So I like that. This is the result from right after, and it's the same exact thing. So I went in deeper with my curves, and I think the only way I would have gone deeper with the back curve would be if I had added more ease to my horizontal measurement. But I like the curves better the second time, and this is the result. It looks better, it feels better, so I just stick with that. So now let's talk about armhole gaping and why that could happen. It could be because you need a back dot. In this case, you would see the gaping at the back, like you see in this picture, which is from over 5 years ago. And another reason could be that your shoulder slope is too high. In this case, you would see the gaping closer to your shoulder. And other reason could be your arm side being too long, or you have too much ease in your horizontal measurements. And in those cases, you would see the gaping closer to the curves of your armhole, the lower curve. So I am going to show you how to fix it when that is the case. To remove the gaping in this case, while you have the bodice on, you would pinch the amount that is gaping, mark it, and measure it. And you would place that measurement on your bodice pattern. And the plan is to move that excess to the bust dot. If you have a large bust specifically, I am using a bodice block that has a bust dot and a waist dot. And so I would move it to the bust dot. It's up to you where you decide to move it to. And so, yeah, I will let you watch how I do that and keep quiet. is something I need to clarify because on my Bodice black pattern tutorial, I mentioned that I draw a straight line from the center front to the side seam. I forgot to mention that that line needs to be squared in, not just a straight line. And the straight line, that's just how I like to do things. But that line needs to be squared in. And so when you do that, it will add to your measurement. It doesn't have to be squared in all the way to the side seam. It could just be to the dot point. Regardless, you would have some excess. But remember, your bodice is supposed to work really well with your bottoms. And for our bottoms, we usually go lower at the center front in order to shape the waist. So that just works really well. If you did add square in, that could be your result. And that is not good. I added this next clip because I wanted to show you what could happen if you keep outlining your pattern piece instead of tracing over it. So that's something to be mindful of. Another thing I feel is important to mention is the importance of adding extra ease to your upper bust measurement when you use that. Simply because you do measure a circumference, but the front of our body as women, it is more sloped. It's not a straight line that our measure tape goes against for you to know that this is exactly where things are going to stay on your pattern. When you mark it on your pattern, that's exactly where it's going to stay on your body as well. No, we have a slope front, and I feel like things shift, things move, and simply because your front bust is not a straight line. So I think for that reason, we need extra ease. And so I would add an extra 1/8 of an inch to the measurements. But that's all I wanted to mention, and until next time, bye.